hard for the challenges that are ahead of us.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of injuries, it's kind of Charlie Taylor as the major question mark. Is he back in the ranks?
He's certainly back in contention. He's another one we gave an extra few days going from the last game, which has allowed him an increased level of fitness and injury-free kind of fitness. So he's definitely back in the thinking. Dwight obviously has been coming back anyway. Corky's kind of getting more games and obviously had a game, which is good, as along with people like Dale Stevens. So yeah, I mean, there's a number of players who are on that edge of being truly fit. The hardest challenge of all is getting them completely what you'd call Premier League fit, because that often comes when you get out there and you play.
You talked after the West Ham game about kind of being more effective. Is that the habits that you're also speaking about in that kind of 3-game batch where things look to have kind of got back to normal?
Well, it's a challenge always. You know, the thing that people sometimes misrepresent about the Premier League, it's hard keeping clean sheets, that's for sure, but it's hard scoring as well. You know, and so I've never really over-questioned our forwards. I still think we're doing a lot of things right. We did at West Ham as well, despite some reports which were interesting to read, but I thought we gave a good performance down there. We know we've got to add to the effectiveness in the front third of the pitch. That's been an ongoing thing here. So we know about that. We work with some analysis with the players, of course, but there are a lot of things that are going in the right way. And I mentioned after the last game, you know, we had 2 points after 8 games. So you've taken 14 points from the next 9 games, which is a healthy return. If you look at the teams we've played, it is a very healthy return. So, you know, we're not a million miles away, as I've always said, good or bad, but we're not a million miles away. I don't often think you are. I think the details, I think the belief comes back into it as well. That's an important factor. The stats, the facts, some of the past and how we've achieved that. But of course, you know, we've got to look to the future. And the next one's against a top side like Liverpool.
But I mean, a lot of managers talk about fine margins, but if you look at the last 4 games, I think, you know, no one's gone goal crazy against you. And we are talking about those fine margins, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, West Ham was an interesting one. We went down, had more possession there than we've had, you know, created chances, you know, did a lot of things well. But you've got to score a goal. You know, we know that. You've got to keep a clean sheet as well, which we so nearly did. You know, I don't think they had too many golden chances, apart from at the very end when we were stretching to try and get something from the game. You know, a lot of good things about the Man United's performance, of course. You know, the good things, getting wins and draws in that nice little run we had. Very tough, I think we all agree, a very tough situation we had at Leeds, and it certainly wasn't from our performance, because the performance was very good. So, you know, we've got to look at the bigger picture as well. Alongside that, knowing what we are, knowing the realities of what we are, and know what we need to do to try and change things.
On the possession thing, a lot of people make, you know, a lot of the stats. I mean, you had more than West Ham. Is that a change in philosophy, or is it just sometimes games present themselves like that to give you more of the ball?
Yeah, I think West Ham have had a change as well. I think they've come into a bit more of a kind of tighter shape in the way they're going about their business. You know, not being so ball crazy about it. You know, kind of finding that defensive balance as well as attacking moments. It's working very well for them. We all know that. You know, they pulled out some really good results at the right times. So there's a bit of that. There's a bit of us as well, just finding our feet a little bit, trying to be effective still. The change in the game formats and the game profiles, you know, there are some subtle changes in the division, but I can assure you my goal with the team is still to be effective. I've never been a brandist, not worried about that. The best brand you'll ever have is winning enough games to be in the Premier League if you're Burnley Football Club. And beyond that, that's a different ballgame. But that's always been the directive here, is do what you need to do to stay in the Premier League. We speak openly with the players about the different challenges we have and the different ways we have to affect games. And often, not always, we've delivered that, or certainly enough to continue our journey in the Premier League.
A lot of questions to Jurgen Klopp about their lack of goals. I mean, it bears out what you're saying about it being a tough place, the Premier League, to actually score goals, doesn't it? If they're struggling being the champions.
Yeah, I mean, look, struggling in their world is slightly different to our world when you talk about goals. You are talking about, you know, extreme levels of goals at times when they're really free-flowing a bit, you know, themselves and Man City and the like, you know, when they're really on it, they can score, you know, fine goals from different places. You know, does that carry on forever? Probably not. Even when you're at the top sides, they probably have a quiet spell. They've had some injuries as well. We all know that. It's very important players. And they've got very good players across the board, but there's still reasons why some of them players become the top players. But no, I don't. I'm not overthinking the fact that they may be not as free flowing, because even when they're not, I don't know if you notice, they're still up there. They're still delivering. They're still winning. You know, they're still getting points. And you know, they still delivered a good performance against Man U, who are in very good form. You know, so I'm not overthinking that. I think we still have to be on top of ourselves and on top of our performance.
But going back to a place where you got one of your better results last season, that 1-1 draw.
Yeah, but only better results because of who you're playing at that time. You know, they were run away with it. They were unbelievable last year, absolutely awesome at times. So that would make a bigger story. You know, that's not the story of our season. It's a nice point in the season when you get points against teams with the prowess of Liverpool. But, you know, the meat and veg of our season is certainly not just getting a point at Liverpool. There's more to it than that. But it was a good result against a top side who were free-flowing. And we were in good form myself at that side with, you know, a lot of challenges. So I was very pleased at that time.
Top stuff. Thank you. Good luck tomorrow. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. Can we move to Sam Ashur?
Hi, Sean. Yeah, you've just about covered it all there. I'll ask you about...
Okay, Sam, thanks for speaking to you.
I said,
oh, sorry,
just about...
Sam more. Okay.
You mentioned the term season's work quite often in your press conferences. Is it just about, you know, staying patient, staying calm, trusting the system? Can you just elaborate on that one for us?
It's not just about that. We look at many different ways of operating. We've often come back to one that suits the players. That's always been my belief. You know, I think a way of working that the players can deliver for their welfare as individuals and for the team's welfare to be productive. And I think we've always looked at it. I certainly look at teams like that. And I think we've found a way of operating that quite obviously finds its way, and even in the Premier League with the challenges of it. So I think there's belief in what we do. We do adjust it more than people think, particularly distances of performances and yardages and some of the details. But we do like the format that the players work from and generally the delivery of performances that we get.
I know you've spoken a little bit about Liverpool there. How would you compare them this season with last season from a tactical standpoint?
Well, the manager's spoken not about tactics as much, but about a lot of games, about, you know, obviously injuries, and they've had players missing and stuff like that. So that's obviously an in-house situation. But outside of that, they still look a top outfit. They're still right up there. They're still delivering very good performances. They can still be effective in different ways. You know, even with the challenge of, you know, I think Jordan Henderson playing centre-half the other night did a very good job. They still looked an effective side in that situation. You know, they've got very good players. They've got a high confidence level from obviously their achievements over the last couple of seasons. And it kind of gets ingrained in them sides. You know, eventually they get that kind of ingrained confidence level that spreads amongst the group. So I don't for 1 minute think we go there thinking it's going to be easy, because it's quite clearly not. We offer the respect for everyone in the Premier League, most for our own self-respect. So when the whistle blows, we want to be ready to deliver our performance and see where it takes us.
Just finally for me, Sean, you asked about Charlie Taylor's fitness there. Just overall, any other fitness concerns, or is everyone okay?
No, we're just about there generally. You know, there'll be a couple we're getting news on for tomorrow, but generally we're just about there. So there's certainly nothing serious at the moment. So long may that continue, obviously.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Alex Hall, please, BBC.
Hi, Sean.
Hey.
Man United will tell everyone you need to be at physical peak to play Burnley. Liverpool are a bit short at centre-back. Is that something you're looking to exploit?
No, I don't think the physical side of our game, I think it's a strange one. People mention it often. I don't think we're overly physical. I wish we were more physical. I think our physical prowess as regards stats and facts and delivery of physical, as in mileage, as in sprint distance, I think that's good. I like that. You certainly have to deliver that against these sides, because one of the biggest changes when Jurgen came in, when Pep came in, other managers as well, but I'll just use them as an example, was the shift in the dynamic of the teams. You know, and they were always good sides. They could always use the ball. They could always technically, defend properly and attack properly. But now they've brought in an energy level, you know, to these performances from these sides. So you've certainly got to compete on that side of things. You've got to put in the miles. You've got to put in the sprint distance. You've got to put in all of the physical markers that you need to compete in the Premier League, regardless of who you're playing. And then, of course, you've got to work on top of that to find the chances and open up the opportunities while defending very well as a side. So that's often how the games pan out against these sort of sides. We're aware of that. It sounds easy when you talk about it like this. You're throwing it around, not so easy when that whistle blows. So we'll be ready and we'll take it on and see what happens.
And just to go back on that again, you mentioned Jordan Henderson playing centre-back and they had two centre midfielders there. Does that change the way you kind of approach the game?
No, I think they delivered a good performance the other night. We don't know, obviously, if other players will be fit. Top pro like Jordan Henderson slotted in, did his job. I think that it doesn't... there's the wrong word is to start talking about anything other than they're still a fine side, because you can get into a situation where you're kidding yourself, that this player's missing, that player's missing, and that somehow makes them less than what they are. Well, it doesn't really, because they're still top players and they can still find a way of doing the job.
That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Alex James, please. Thanks, lad.
Hi, Sean.
Hiya.
Fully fit squad. That's the first time I've heard those words uttered in a long time. Must be music to your ears.
Yeah, not quite fully fit, but nearly there.
Just on sort of the current form, how much does where you are now and how you're approaching games and perhaps the lack of goals impact what you might look to do in January? Or is it more a case that you take an overview, as you've said previously, and believe in the strikers to come good as and when, rather than any sort of panicking into the market?
Well, the obvious challenge of our market is that, people often say that these strange comments about, they need to go and get a goal scorer. Do you know how much goal scorers cost? So unless someone's going to somehow give me that amount of money, trust me, we'll be working very hard with the players we've got. We believe in them. If you look at our own goal scorers, then you've seen the money we spent on them. So you have to have more than that, because the market's quite obviously gone up since then. People talk about the knock-on effects of COVID. Well, we haven't seen that many signs of it, although it's still relatively early. We only had the last window in this one, and there might be an ongoing knock-on of that. So, whichever way you look at it, unless you've got in-house developing players who are that type, I mean, I'm just using goal scorers as an example, then you have to go into the market. And to go into the market nowadays in the current situation, it still costs a lot of money. So they're the realities and facts of it. So we continue to work with the players who I believe in. I think they're very good players. I think when you think that we pulled out the 14 points out of 9 games without scoring many goals, then it's fair to say that stats and facts suggest there's going to come a period when you do score more goals. But the idea is, I think I said this to you last week or the week before, was you've got to make it happen, not wait for it. You could wait for it to happen, because the likelihood is they will score goals at some point. But you've got to make that happen. We want to fast track that to happen. And we can only do that as a team. It's not just about the strikers, as a whole team, as a whole unit. That's the way we've always believed in working here, both defensively and in attack. It's not just down to the strikers. I believe in all of them. I believe in all the players. We have to find goals wherever we can to get what we want.
In terms of the window and a lot made of signings, I just wondered how the sort of fully fit squad, in inverted commas, and the likes of Jack Cork coming back to full fitness might have an impact on whether someone like Josh Benson or a Joel Mbongo or Bobby Thomas, players who've been on the fringes of it, might now get the opportunity to go out and perhaps get a loan that would aid their development for the second half of the season, or whether you still feel you need to hold on to them for a larger squad base.
No, it might do. That'll just be decisions we make ongoing. We want the players, because some players back fit to us, but they're only just fit. They haven't proven over a long period that they're totally fit. We will make decisions on that in due course. A few of them young players have come on a long way, I think, in the last 8 or 9 months, from, strangely enough, from the challenge we've had. And I did say that originally. I said the good opportunity it is now for these young players to mature slightly, working with the first team group all of the time. They often work with us part-time anyway, but they've been working with us all of the time, and now that rubs off on them. And of course, Benno and people like that have actually got minutes on the pitch, including the start. So, that can only stand them in good stead. We'll see what happens as the window comes to its end, and then we'll make decisions on all of them players.
And you've spoken about sort of belief in the squad, and you've got the vast majority of what you would probably consider your first choice 11 under contract past the summer. The one exception of that is the right-hand side with Johan Matlaus and Phil Bardsley. How concerned are you, if at all, about that at this stage, just given that they're all in similar areas of the pitch, and what happened last season with Phil Bardsley, Aaron Lennon and Jeff Hendrick?
I'm never really bothered with this word concern. It's a reality at Burnley Football Club that these things occur. We work openly with the players and their agents. Obviously, that's been tempered by the fact that we've had a previous ownership who were quite obviously intent on selling the club. That's become apparent. So that sale happened. So in the meantime, there's quite a big crossover there with who wanted to put money in and who didn't, quite obviously, from a business point of view. So that has just lengthened out proceedings. On these contract situations. Usually we hope to tie things up a bit quicker. At the moment, we haven't managed to do that. Many different reasons why. So now we are reflecting that period and trying to make sense of it going forward with the new ownership to say, look, these are the things, the challenges that we've got right in front of us. So we're looking at sorting out many different situations here.
And last one from me, Josh King's a player that's been sort of linked and emerged as linked with you guys in the last sort of 24 hours or so. Anything you can share with us on that, or is that sort of kind of player the perhaps one you're looking at for the window?
Nothing I can share. Anything to do with any players coming in. I never have shared anything. I don't know why you think I'm going to share it now, but I won't be sharing anything at all.
I didn't expect you to share it now, Sean, but I had to ask the question. So thanks very much for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Finally done the broadcast session. Dave at PA, please.
Hi, Sean. You all right?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Just on this with the wall.
No worries.
But
in the last 3 seasons, you've gone to Anfield and taken points off Liverpool twice. Given Liverpool's success at home, over the last 3 seasons, stretching back, in about 3.5 years, when they obviously haven't been beaten, is there any sort of commonality in you going to Anfield and having some general success?
Well, we've obviously delivered a performance, usually a defensive performance, that's held us in good stead, because it's unlikely that you go to Anfield and not have to defend well. So I think that's just a given. I don't think it's a negative opinion. It's just an opinion on the truth, because we know they've got attacking style and attacking players and attacking quality. So you have to do that side of things. You have to make the big moments count, which we've done a couple of times there. And you have to find your way. They're peculiar games. They're not. There's other teams in the division. You think you can take on the sort of challenge a bit more evenly, if you like. Often, these challenges are different. If you've got a team that you've put together for 50 million and theirs been put together for 500 million, there's probably going to be a difference there. So therefore, you've got to scrap that, move that out of thinking straight away. It becomes, 11 against 11. You've got to defend, well. You've got to do all the basics well. And you've got to have your key individuals who can open things and create things. You've got to have them play well as well, because you've still got to be in the game. You can't, I don't think it's as easy as people make out, all them days of saying park the bus and all that. It's not that easy, trust me. So you've got to find a balance, but often it starts with a good defensive base. You
mentioned there, going on along similar lines, when Nick, Ben and James played together this season, I think it's been 10 games and you've only conceded 5 goals. I know clean sheets, good defensive performances, they're obviously a team effort, and it might be wrong to single out, well, in this case, 3 individuals, but equally, it can't be a coincidence that you don't concede as many or don't seem to concede as many when those 3 are your base.
Well, they're a good sort of trio, as you've mentioned. They're good. They've played together long enough to understand each other. I think that's helpful. They're ably surrounded by team players around them who do work very, very hard, especially in front of them. The 2 midfielders, whoever their midfielders are, work very hard. The fullbacks get on cover, they do the right things when we can. So don't get me wrong, it's not just about them 3 as a defensive unit. We often ask a lot of our centre forwards as well. We want our centre forwards to defend well from the front. Most teams do nowadays, and we think they're an important part of it. But yeah, to be fair, they're very good players. I've said that all along, and they've done lots of good work for us. And they've got to continue doing that. It's not about what's been in the past, that's for sure. It's about what's coming.
Lovely. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. That concludes the broadcast. Thank you very much, everyone. Sam,